I wonder what this one's going to be.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever time this is showing. Besides, the spirit world is truly outside of time and space. And again, I wish to greet you. And again, I have the honor of introducing Reverend Betty Tatalajski, the founder of the Temple of Universality here in Tucson. And we're in for another treat.
Hello, friends. It's always so good to be with you. And I like having this program here with my partner, Daryl Schoon. He's an author, you know, and quite an expert on so many things, but especially the economy. He has his own TV show. I hope you're watching it. Today I thought we would talk about music. Everybody loves music, don't we? It kind of amazes me, though, how people walk around with those things in their ear and listen to it all the time, all that chatter. And I wonder if they would know their own mind if they didn't listen to this. If they pull that plug out of their ear, what would they hear? Don't you kind of wonder about that? Are they thinking good thoughts? Because with this in here, you don't have to think. Then we remember, as a man thinks it is, because your thoughts are creating your reality.
I knew this was not going to be a normal program on music.
Well, I told you it was about music.
Okay.
Well, isn't that the truth,
That's
though?
the truth.
I mean, you know, if you're listening to all of this stuff all the time, and a lot of it is really hard stuff, you know, a really bad beat here, you know. It isn't like you're listening to the symphony, you know, but music is so important. And, you know, working for Saint Germain, who is the director of the Temple of Universality, he said the masters love waltzes. You know, and we thought, you know, a couple of 100 years ago, and the great musicians, the great music that we had, I don't know what happened to that, but a lot of it's been replaced with some stuff that doesn't feel good to me. I know it's good for other folks, and that's wonderful, and they have their choice, but I can't stand a lot of it just tapping on my ear like that. But I think about babies now, how I was raised, and my mother raised all 9 of us, you know, with a rocking chair and soft music, and she sang lullabies. Now, that's how babies were raised when I was little, and when I raised my own son and daughter, I had the rocking chair, of course, and it was my break time, you know. We didn't have a lot of coffee break time raising kids, but we had time with the babies and singing and listening to the lullaby, and we played the little toys that they have, and it was a lovely thing. And so I wonder about children now that are raised with a lot of other, what I call static music, and so it's interesting. But so we choose the frequency that we want to hear, whether it's going to be a lovely symphony or Pericomo, you know, that kind of music, or whether we want to, you know, have this stuff running through our body, which there's not good or bad, it's just interesting to me. But, you know, music can also save your life, because I met a woman in Israel who's a gypsy woman, and I told her I had...
What was she doing in Israel?
Well, we were at the Middle East Peace Initiative.
She was there.
And she was representing, let's see, she was representing not Hungary, because
Romania?
I had been to Bulgaria.
Bulgaria.
I had done my peace talk in Sofia, Bulgaria, and she heard I was coming to the MIPI, Middle East Peace Initiative, in Israel, like I always do. And so she came because she said I had met her there. There were more gypsies there in Sofia, Bulgaria.
Yeah, Eastern Europe, a lot.
Eastern Europe. And what after I had met her there, then I went to Hungary and Budapest and had the most incredible time with the gypsy music.
Really?
Yes. And the forest outside Budapest.
Wow.
And what a lovely, lovely experience it was. So we were just so thrilled with it. Now, we understand that gypsies, which I couldn't imagine because they're so creative and wonderful. The music is just wonderful. And I find it hard to understand why people don't, have this negative thing about gypsies, because I just thought they were so incredible. So anyway, she came to Israel and she brought me paprika. She didn't know I don't cook either, but I do have a friend who made Hungarian goulash, and it all worked out. It's really good. But I was talking about just being thrilled. I would go back there to that forest in Hungary just for that music. It was invigorating, innervating. Just the people were just incredibly infused. It was their lives.
Yeah.
And it just poured out of them,
Yep.
And she said, well, that music saved my life. I said, well, how was that? She said, well, during the war, they were going around and collecting Jews for the camps, and also the gypsies. So in my little village, they came, knocked on, 2 German soldiers came, knocked on the door to get my mom and dad and my grandmother and take them to the camps. And so she said our most prized possession was our violin. And so we had a little wine left. So my father invited them in as if he didn't know,
the purpose.
Of course. And he said, this is why we say don't push the river. Resist not evil. Resist not evil, okay? Because it's law. So he invites them in. The grandmother goes out the back door down to the neighbors. Now, they were all very poor, of course. She explained to them. They all poured their wine into a bottle, and she came back with it. The grandma comes back with a bottle of wine, and so they keep playing and dancing. They're dancing with the German soldiers and giving them the wine that the neighbors gave them. And when the neighbor said, one of the neighbors said, the Russians are 2 hours from here. We just heard on our little radio that we're not supposed to have, that they are 2 hours from here. If you can keep the German soldiers, they're diverted, yes, you may have a chance. They did it. They shared the wine that the neighbors had poured in the bottle for them. They played their violin, and they danced. And 2 hours later, exactly, the Germans came.
The Russians,
sir, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Russians came, took the Germans out, And she said, I was born 2 years later. I was born 2 years later. If it hadn't been for music,
she wouldn't have been
I wouldn't even have a life. So music can really save your life. It can calm your fears.
But by the same token, if you're in the military service and you're doing a job, and people come in and invite you to sit down and have a drink and listen to some music, it may not turn out so good for you.
Well, it could. That's true. That's true. But we know the law.
Yes.
That law. Now, cosmic law, natural law, will not bend and it will not break.
That's right.
As Jesus said, as a man thinks in his heart, not glibly, oh, I believe that. No, on
Truly.
Truly. If I believe that, do not push the river. Resist not evil. That's what he said, resist not evil. What he meant was change your mind into this is good, and then Spirit can come in and help. They cannot help you if you are in that midst of defeat, despair, because they don't go there. Because what you're going to draw to you at that level, you don't want to invite them in, but you will, because it's law. It is law. It's a law of magnetism.
Salvation is a personal issue.
It's a personal issue.
And we do have help, but it is personal. It is personal.
You have to individually decide what frequency you're going to be on.
Yeah.
If you want to be with good folks, lovely folks.
Yeah.
And another thing is the music. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of the music out there now, but it is on an individual frequency that is going to entertain you or work against you. You know, it's interesting. Who knew that music is, it's solvent for the soul. But on the other hand, a lot of people don't want to have that frequency. They want to be otherwise engaged. And it's not right or wrong. It's just not a healthy choice.
You know, Betty, because you said in the beginning the metaphor about those things in your ear where people just, like that, and what it does is drown out. It's not even what you're listening to, it's what you're not listening to.
That's what you're not listening to.
It's what you're not listening to. And, when you look at the mystics, the ones who've sought truth and the ones who have found it, there is always the thing of meditation and the silence and the quiet. And the reason is that there's nothing wrong with the world per se, but the world can be a diversion if what you want is the truth. Because the truth can only be discovered in the silence.
Because Jesus said, be still and know. He didn't say, be still and think. He didn't say, put this in your ear and shut me out. Shut out the voice of the soul. That's not what he said. He said, be still and know. We call it meditation. It's a very healthy choice. It's not good or bad whether you do it. There's no judgment on it. But a lot of the things that we do without thinking are just not healthy choices, especially when you haven't even discovered why you're here yet. So many people don't know, and so, like Spirit says, you have a passion for your purpose, or are you just killing time, standing on the sidelines? Your life has no reason or rhyme because you haven't even awakened up from your cosmic coma to understand, as the great Master said, ye are gods, and you came here for a purpose. People act like we act like that we just stumbled into the earth plane, didn't we? Or somebody pushed us out of heaven and into earth.
Well, Betty, it seems like that.
It seems like that.
You go and ask those little kids in grammar school, and they go, all right, and they give you a story like that.
Well,
because it seems like that somehow, who am I, or how did I get here?
I didn't ask to be born.
And then,
I didn't ask. That's the greatest fallacy in the world. I didn't ask to be born.
And then what happens is, pretty soon, life becomes so intense, you stop asking those questions, and you're consumed with just trying to cope.
And you put this thing in your ear,
so
it's vibrating all the time, and your fingers are doing texting all the time, and you become this mechanical figure without
understanding the consequences.
Yes, a mind is a great thing to misplace. You can't lose it, but you can seriously misplace it, can't you?
Well, Betty, but this is interesting. Both you and I know from the bottom of my heart, we consider ourselves the luckiest people in the world.
Absolutely.
And not only just compared with
Absolutely.
other people, but compared with how our lives used to be.
Well, that's why we celebrate all the time. That's why life is a celebration.
And
We just want people to
be
know it.
to be happy. Now,
Be happy.
And
We've got a bumper sticker. Don't worry, be happy.
now the truth is, because I know your story too, it's like we're like those tubes of toothpaste that got
Absolutely.
squeezed out so bad that the whole thing had to be squeezed out.
And folks, it's not about your life, what it looks like. Whether you're sitting at Park Avenue Suite or whether you're a street sweeper, okay? It doesn't matter.
No.
Some of the most peaceful, productive people in the world have
Nothing.
nothing.
Nothing. And some of the
Nothing.
richest people in the world are the most plexed. And they apparently have everything.
And we could think of many
Yeah.
people like
In between,
like
Howard
Howard
Hughes.
Hughes.
Yeah.
You know, a mind that was so great,
Yeah. Paranoid to the end.
but paranoid, and that kept him from the treasure
Yeah.
that he was.
Yeah. He had so much money.
So
He spent it on trying to control a world that was beyond his ability to control.
because he didn't know.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if anybody ever told him, you know, what Jesus said, ye are gods, and you're all created in my image because you're spirit. Now you have chosen bodies that are different, you know, and languages and so forth, but the one thing that you're the same, you're a spark of divinity. And like Spirit says, if the greatest sin, if there were a sin, they tell me there is no sin, there are mistakes or choices that haven't served you well, but like A Course in Miracles says, just choose once again. If you didn't like that one, just choose once again.
Now, Betty, you and I, and it was because of what we call divine discontent.
That's the hole in your soul.
Yes. And
The
there,
hole in your soul. You try to shove things into it.
it could be money, food, drugs, friends, activity, achievement, anything. Just
But it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's like a hole, a black hole that sucks it all up.
Absolutely.
And if the divine and you can't people have all these toys. We are probably the richest, most materially abundant culture on the face of the earth. And there's more drugs, psychotropic drugs that people take to try and make them get through the day.
Right.
Now,
Right.
this divine discontent.
Make them feel okay.
Yes. Now, this divine discontent got you when you're living up in the foothills of Tucson, the swimming pool, the family.
Crying,
the
when
kid.
do I get a life?
Yes. But you see, you got answered.
I did.
You got
The
answered,
answer
Betty.
was, what would you do if you had one? Well, that just sort of knocked the wind out of me. Well, I don't know. I never had one. You know, I've got my husband's life, my children's life, you know, my
Animal's life,
yeah,
your
my
pet's life.
cat and the dog.
The swimming pool's life.
The swimming pool wants to be cleaned, and I'm going to work.
Yeah.
So I have no life. And I heard that voice. Well, what would you do if you had one? I didn't have an answer to that because I didn't know what. I didn't know. I mean, maybe I'm the most ignorant person, you know, in the world, but I didn't have an answer. Well, what would I do if I didn't do all of this stuff? I'm doing stuff, you know.
You know, I have an answer, Betty. You know what the answer is?
What?
What you would do when you had a life, you would become so happy, so grateful, so overjoyed, and
Well,
so
that's exactly-
stunned at what it had turned into that you wanted to tell other people.
That I want to, you know,
Yeah.
that I would found a
temple.
for
And-
all
yes.
people.
And not even necessarily want to. You were told you're going to do this
Absolutely.
as a part of your life.
They said, this is what you came in to do. We've been working on this idea, you know, of universalism for eons of time. And now, since we're in the Aquarian age, it's time to do it because the beloved teachers, the Buddha, the Muhammad, Jesus, and all came in to prepare the way, wanting people to love each other, waiting for this Aquarian time of individual responsibility, individual obligation. But who knew?
When you were living in the foothills with a house, with a husband, with the kids, with the pets, and the swimming pool, who knew?
Who knew? Who knew? And so, the first thing that I sort of fell into, besides, spiritualism, when they told me, now you do A Course in Miracles, you facilitate A Course in Miracles, you're not a teacher of it, because
there are no teachers.
The Holy Spirit is the teacher.
Yeah.
But who knew? I need do nothing.
Betty, I remember when I was reading that text.
I remember. Nothing.
I remember. There are 3 volumes in those books.
Yeah, I know.
And
I just had one earlier today.
And I remember in the late 70s, I'm reading it, and I remember when I saw that sentence. I remember.
I know.
It stopped me.
What do you mean?
What do you
nothing?
mean?
I am working my fingers to the bone, and you're telling me, the Holy Spirit's telling me
do nothing. But what it said was this, Betty, because I remember what it was stunned me. It said, when you understand, that's when you understand, when you get there, then you will know you need do nothing. That's what it said.
And you do. Be still and know that I am God.
Yeah.
That I am God, that you are.
Isn't that amazing?
Jesus says, ye are gods. Your name is I am that I am. Whatever you say, you create.
Folks, here we are. I'm sitting next to Reverend Betty Tatalajski. Whoever you are, you're out there listening to these words. And the truth is, we're the same. We are all the same.
Everyone.
Listener, speaker,
everyone.
The ones who have those things in their ear, trying to drown out the inner voice.
We understand. We've been there.
We've been there. And the ones in the caves who are meditating, trying to hear the inner voice. We're all the same.
And
we're all the same.
This thing we call Arab Spring and all the divine discontent
that's sweeping the world.
Now, if all of them sat down and breathed, holy breath, your umbilical cord to the creative source, just holy breath, then the world would be at peace.
You know what we're all breathing anyway. We might as well do it in awareness.
Yes, instead of picking up guns and going to war with folks. We're just really at war with ourselves.
It's true.
We're at war with ourselves. But the beautiful, blessed teacher, Jesus, be still and know that I am God.
Betty, maybe one of the wonderful things about life is when we're at war with ourselves, we have so many enemies we can project it on. If we're at war with ourselves, we can go to war with the people we love. We can go to war with the people we hate. We can go to war with anything and anybody.
And it seems like politics now is a good opportunity
to do it.
It's a playground for divine discontent, isn't it?
Which leads me, that's going to be the subject of my talk on my program.
Is it? Well, I want to listen to it. I want to be there. I want to see it. But friends, thank you so much. We love this community and all of you here, and you all are, of course, invited to the Temple of Universality.
11 o'clock every Sunday in Tucson, the corner of Prince and Country Club at the Masonic Temple, with Reverend Betty Tatalajski, who founded this most extraordinary institution.